Hello. I wanted to hop on really quick and create a short video to talk about a very important topic as we are in week 2 of the semester, and that is time management. So as you start this module and you read the first chapter of your text, one of the themes that you will see repeated several times is that of having good time management and being organized and having a consistent schedule to study. And so hopefully as you read the chapter and you do some of your mind tap activities online, you learn different strategies and kind of think about that for yourself. But I want to really encourage you to take the time this week, if you have not already done so, to create a schedule. I cannot stress how important this is as a college student. I think a lot of times that we just think, oh, we'll find time. I'll find time. I'll do it in between my other responsibilities. I'll do it before dinner. I'll do it after I get off work. But the reality is, if we don't schedule that, if we don't make that a priority and put it on our calendar, and then create a consistent schedule where we're always studying kind of on those same days and same times, the reality is it's not going to become a habit. And so the entire semester, we're constantly going to be going from week to week, struggling, trying to find that time that we need to study. And we probably won't be in good control of what's going on around us. And so we will constantly fill in that time that we need for classes with other things. So it's really important that we create a schedule. We're going to talk about different options for that in terms of finding something that really works for you. I know I'm probably still kind of considered old school, because I use a planner. I use a paper and pen planner to put all my things in, all my appointments, keep track of, any extra work or extracurriculars I have, and then build in time for things that I need to devote to it. My son is very techie, and I know a lot of students are very techie, and he uses a Google Calendar, and he puts everything he needs to do into Google Calendar and uses different colors to organize and highlight. So you really just need to find a system that works for you. We're going to kind of talk about different strategies and tools during this unit, during this module, but I really wanted to start off with just talking briefly about time management and how important it is for you. I always think of time management, I think of the acronym POSITIVE. So we're looking at the positives of being a college student. What do we need to focus on? And so we break that down letter by letter. The P is the very first one and the most important one. We have to prioritize. We're all busy people. You're always going to be busy. There's always going to be things that take up your time that you have to devote to. That's just the way it is. Even students that are full-time students and don't have to work or don't have a lot of other extra responsibilities, you're still going to have things come up. It's someone's birthday. You want to go out with friends. Your aunt's in town to visit. There's always going to be these, something happens at home, like I don't know, you have a water leak or whatever. So there's always things that are going to come up that we're going to have to deal with in terms of our everyday lives. So you have to make school a priority, and you have to look at the things that are going on around you and take charge of those. Don't let the activities around you dictate what you do in what order. You make those decisions in terms of what needs to be taken care of first, and then kind of make a list of what can be taken care of after that. Hopefully school is on the top of that list so that you can be successful and earn the grades that you want. O is operating efficiently. You want to be efficient. You want to figure out good systems for yourself. You want to figure out routines. Our brain craves routine. Our brain craves consistency. So the more that you can be consistent with the days of the week that you sit down and study, the days of the week that you do certain activities within each of your classes, your brain is going to love that. It needs and wants a consistent routine. And when you build that for yourself early in the semester, it takes all the guesswork out of things for you. You don't have to every single week struggle to figure out what days of the week you're going to sit down to be able to study. You can create a good game plan. And then when things do come up, when there is an emergency water leak, or when your aunt does come in town unexpectedly, it's very easy to look at that typical plan and make some adjustments. Say, okay, normally on Thursday nights, I sit down and I work on my sociology class, but this week my aunt's in town, so I'm going to switch that to Saturday or to Sunday, because you're going to have that plan already in place. If we don't operate efficiently, if we don't create those consistent routines and we know when we're going to do things, when unexpected things come up, it tends to derail us. It spins us out of control, and all we can focus on is the immediate, we got to fix this or we got to take care of this, and we push everything else to the side, which is not good. S is schedule time. This one's self-explanatory. You have to schedule time in for everything. I have a lot of students that say to me, I'm not a scheduler. I like to be spontaneous. I like to just kind of go with the flow. I like to do things how I want. And my answer to that is definitely if that's your personality and that's kind of what you crave and like. I'm not trying to change your personality or change you as a person, but I will tell you that to be a successful student and to reach all of your goals, you're going to have to be somewhat of a scheduler. You are going to have to still be spontaneous in different things that you can be. But when it comes to school, you don't want to be spontaneous. When it comes to college, you want things scheduled out in advance. You want to have a game plan. I is itemize things. So again, creating a to-do list that can be however you need it to look or is going to be effective for you. If you wanted to use your phone and create reminders, if you like post-it note, old school post-it note, and create a list. If you have a whiteboard in your room and you like to put everything on the whiteboard so you can cross it out or erase it as you do it, whatever works for you, but you do need to have a daily to-do list. You need to be checking all of your classes and seeing what needs to be submitted. T is tackle procrastination. We will talk more in detail about procrastination later, but just making sure that if you are a procrastinator, you think of ways or learn new ways to tackle that. I, ignoring distractions. We have distractions around us all the time, different things. We may have children, we have social media, we have jobs, we have different things all the time. That's not going to go away. So even when you do your best to try to create a quiet study space for yourself, or maybe you wait till everyone else goes to bed so you can study on your own, there's still going to be distractions. You're going to sit down to study and remember that you forgot to pay the phone bill, or or you're thinking about your grocery list, or whatever the case may be. So you have to train yourself. You really do have to train your brain to ignore the distractions. And for some of you, that may be super easy because you're already good at it. And for others of you, it may not, because you may be the type of person that no matter what you're doing, if your phone goes off that you got a text or you have a new notification, you're immediately moving on to social media. Or then maybe grandma calls and then you're talking to grandma for 25 minutes and you forget your original task or whatever the case may be. So if distractions are an issue for you, you're going to have to really work at this one. V is visualize your success. This is super important. And I know sometimes students think it's corny, but it's not corny. You need to visualize yourself being successful. And when I say visualize, I mean literally picture yourself in the situation you want for yourself. So if you want to graduate, if that's your main goal, I want you to close your eyes and picture yourself in a cap and gown walking across the stage and what that's going to sound like and look like and feel like. And your family is in the audience and maybe your favorite professor is cheering you on down the aisle and whatever the case may be. And you could hear the graduation music in the background, but it's really important. If you're working towards other goals within your life, if you're saving for a new home, if you're, whatever the case may be, visualize that. Visualize yourself in your kitchen in your new home, cooking your favorite meal or whatever. And you can call it corny, but it works. Research has proven it works. When we physically picture ourselves in the situation that we want, it motivates us. It gives us power. It gives us motivation power. And we'll talk a lot about motivation and how to build motivation. The thing is, a lot of times people just think they either have motivation or they don't have it, or sometimes I'm going to get motivation, sometimes I don't have motivation. That's not the case. We have to build it. You have to kind of pump up your own motivation all the time, and visualizing successes in the future, that pumps up motivation. That gets your brain going like, oh, I want to be in that kitchen cooking that meal. I want to be on that stage walking across to graduate. And then E is enjoying achievements. I think sometimes in the stress of the day-to-day and we're constantly feeling like we're running behind and we have so much to do, we may not really stop and enjoy achievements or even small things like getting a really good grade on a quiz, or maybe there was an essay you really struggled with and you just didn't think you did well on, and then you get it back and you got a B. That's important to celebrate that. That's important to be proud of yourself and to share that with people around you that are going to be proud of you. And if you don't have anyone in your life that's a supportive factor for you that's going to be proud, tell me, because I'm going to be proud of you so I can share in that success and that achievement with you. Okay, so this is positive. This is positive time management and things to think about within that. This slide just talks about getting organized. Again, we focus on this in Module 1, how important it is to be organized in your stuff. So your backpack, your class folders, your binders, your textbooks, how important it is to be organized in your technology, making sure that you have access to all of your things, Canvas, email, if you're using OneDrive, whatever you're using. And then the third thing is being organized in your study area. So having a designated study area and really being organized within your materials in that study area. I think I love this quote. I think this is really, really important. You can't manage time. When we talk about time management, you can't really manage time. There's no way for you to control time, right? Time keeps going every single day, no matter what we do. So it literally does not matter. Like some of the world's worst catastrophes have happened. And guess what? Time kept on ticking. It did not care that those horrible, horrific things are happening. You may have had personal struggles or tragedies or different things that's happened, and you've learned the lesson that time keeps on going. So we can't really manage time. The time's going to keep going regardless, but what we can manage are the choices that we make and how we use that time. I always tell students, and sometimes it may sound harsh, but the reality is we all have the same amount of time. You and I have the exact same amount of time in the day. And when you look at yourself and you may compare yourself to other students that are being more successful than you or getting better grades, or maybe they got the job you wanted or they got their promotion or whatever the case may be, I don't want you to use the excuse of, oh, they have more time, or somehow they were able to get that all fit in and I can't because I have a job and I have this and I have that. The reality is everyone has all of those things. And so for those people that can juggle it all and can fit all that in, it's because they've learned how to make smart choices and they've learned how to make priorities so that they don't lose track of their goals. And so that is what I challenge you to really think about in this module is what are your priorities and what changes may I need to make in my life so that I have the room and the time that I need for school. So how are you going to do this? How are you going to accomplish this? You're going to use different tools. I can't stress that enough. You need to use tools. You need to use resources that are out there for you. When we talked about the planners and the calendars and the apps and the to-do lists, that's not just me talking. That is reality. We all need those things. So you find something that's going to work for you. Find a snazzy app that lets you do all kinds of techie things if you love technology. Find a really cute planner from Walmart or Target if you like the old school planners, whatever the case may be. I've had students say that they keep a to-do list on their phone so they can mark it off. I've had students use the whiteboard method in their house. I've even had students say that they've created to-do lists and put them on post notes in their car because they're in their car a lot. And so that's where they know they were going to see them. So you have to create a schedule and tools that are going to work for you. One of the things that students always ask me is how much time should I be devoting to my college classes? How much time should I be studying? And so this right here gives you kind of a base formula, and I say base because this could be very different depending on you as an individual and depending on what classes you're taking. You may need more than this, but this kind of gives you a base idea of where to start in terms of building in study time. So for however many credit hours you have, however many hours of class time you have, you need to double that, so times it by 2. And that's how many hours of study time per week you are expected to spend on this class in order to earn an A or a B. Okay. And again, it may require more than that, depending on the class, depending on the content, depending on the instructor. But if you want to be an A or B student, if you want to be extremely successful, if you want to earn a high GPA, you are looking at minimum of double the amount of class time to spend on your own because you're not in the class enough with your instructor to go over everything. I mean, it's way different at the college level than high school. In high school, you're with the teacher every single day and you have way more time to go over the content together. In college, you're not with your instructor every single day and there's less time. So the expectation is you are going to be doing the additional learning on your own with the support of your professor. So I gave the example here. If you're in 4 hours worth of classes, you're going to times that by 2, and you should have 8 hours of study time throughout the week. Now that 8 hours does not count the 4 hours you're going to class. The 4 hours that you're going to class is separate, and then you need 8 more hours spread out over your week. Now, in this particular example, obviously a week has 7 days, and so that would be pretty doable. You could easily spread that out and do 1 hour a day and pick up an extra half an hour here and there to get to the 8. You could look at your schedule. If you have certain days of the week that you're completely off work and you want to put in more hours, maybe on those 2 days, you're going to put in 2 or 3 hours a piece to get to your 8. So that would be a pretty doable number to spread out over a week. Usually what happens is when students are at full-time status, that's when it gets a little bit scarier in terms of getting all that time fit in. So for example, if you're taking 15 credit hours this semester, that's 30 hours of study time that you need. And students say, there's no way I can do that. That's like a full-time job. If you take the 15 hours I'm in and the 30 hours I'm supposed to study, that's 45 hours. That's more than a 40-hour work week. My answer to that is, yeah, I know, because going to school, being a full-time student, implies that you are focusing on your schoolwork full time. Like this is your full-time job. Now, I'm very aware that students may have to continue to work and you don't have a choice in that. But the reality is if you want to be successful in college, and not just at Lincoln Land, but any college you attend, and you want to be a full-time student, that requires some sacrifice. That requires some good planning so that you can still work if you need to pay the bills, but also get all the time you need in per week for these classes. Because if you want to be successful, if you want a high GPA, if you want to get A's and B's, you are not going to be able to sign up to be a full-time student and then only do part-time work, because you're also working, you also have family, you also have other things. That's just the reality. And sometimes it's a harsh reality. Sometimes students do not like me to say that to them. And I completely understand the logistics of it. The practicality is you have to pay your bills, you have to work. But the bottom line is you're also committing to college. And if you have to figure out a way to do both. And you can. I promise you can. But it's going to take some planning. It may take some sacrifice on your part to rearrange some things that you may not necessarily want to. And it definitely takes you making some choices in priority. Okay? So choosing specific subjects and goals for each study session. So not only are you going to pick which days of the week and what times of the week you're going to sit down, but also be pretty specific. Look at your to-do list for that week. Look at your modules. Look in Canvas and see what your instructors are asking you to do. And then be as specific as you can. Obviously, for this class, you have a lot of different activities that are going to be the same every module. So choose specific days. I gave you that example in an announcement of kind of how you could break the class down. Use that or revise it to fit what you want. But say Tuesdays, I'm doing this particular activity. Thursdays, I'm sitting down for an hour and doing FYE and doing this, and then build all of your other classes in. Okay. Another trick that I really like that a lot of times students do not do or do not think of, but when you're at the end of a study session, write yourself a note, write yourself a short Post-it note, stick it inside your book, stick it in your folder that says where you're at. Where are you leaving off? What did you accomplish? Did you, maybe you only got to page 20 of the chapter or whatever, and you have to finish it. Write a note to yourself saying, I need to finish the rest of the chapter. Here's the last topic I read about. Because obviously you're busy. There's going to be other things you're doing before you come back to your study session. And it's going to be easy to kind of forget where you were at. And so then you can read that quick note and it'll remind you like, oh yeah, I remember this. I was learning about this topic. Now I need to pick up where I was. Okay. These are just some additional tips for time and kind of how to make smart choices. Again, you can adjust these to fit what works for you well. But if you really struggle with time management, if this is something you have not done well in the past, if you're a procrastinator, if it's really affected your ability to reach goals, I would strongly encourage you to follow these suggestions I'm giving you and see if it makes a difference, see if you see changes in your life. One of the top ones that's been proven by research is that if you have multiple subjects that you need to accomplish, always start with your hardest subject. Because at that point, your brain is at its best. It's not tired. It's not worn down. So if it's a subject that is difficult for you, or it's never, not something that's come easy to you, for example, math would for sure be mine. I'd always have to start with math first. Do the hardest subject first, which a lot of times students don't want to do that. They want to push the hard subjects off to the end because they don't like it, but you need to do it first when your brain is at its freshest. Eliminate distractions. We talked about that already briefly, but I cannot tell you how important that is. So look at your schedule and figure out, when do I need to do my study time so I have the least amount of distractions. If I have children and they're all coming home after school and the house is chaos and I'm trying to cook supper and the dog's barking and the phone's ringing, that is not the best time for you to be attempting to study. Because even though you think you're reading the chapter, even though you think you're looking at the notes, that is not going into your brain permanently. It's going in one ear and out the other. So it's really important that you look at when is going to be a good time to study. Okay. And then one of the other tricks we'll talk about later when we talk about self-management is just knowing, how important it is to keep your focus on school every single day. So even if you have certain days of the week that you're going to do the bulk of the work, like maybe you've really set up your schedule for Tuesdays and Thursdays to be your school days, because then the other days of the week you're going to work or you have other things going on. That's understandable that Tuesday and Thursday is when you're going to do the bulk of your studying or when you're going to go to class. But do not just focus on college on Tuesdays and Thursdays, because that's not that's going to do a disservice. You're going to really struggle with memory. You're going to struggle to keep up with everything. That's too long in between classes, especially from the Thursday to the Tuesday. That's way too long in between without you looking at that subject. So one of the things I really like, and I used myself as a student, and I promise you it works, is every night before I would go to bed, I would think about the topics of the class that I was in. What are we learning? What were some of the main topics? I would try to quiz myself on certain details I know that I needed to know for an upcoming quiz or whatever the case may be. Sometimes I would even just like 15 minutes pull out some note cards or reread the summary at the end of the chapter in the book, just something to keep my mind on it. So even if it was a day I was not focusing really heavily on my college work, I tried really hard to not let one single day go by that I wasn't at some point thinking about that class or trying to remember the main points. Okay. Take breaks. Take breaks. If you're going to sit down and do a lot of studying all at once because you have a day off or whatever the case may be, that's fine. But you should only be studying about 45, 50 minutes, about the same amount as a regular class time. And then your brain needs a break. So take a break, go get a snack, take a walk, play with your dog, whatever it is you'd like to do. But set a timer so that you're not, wandering off and never coming back and getting distracted by Netflix or whatever the case may be. Set a timer and go do something quickly that does not take brain power. So changing the laundry would be fine, but trying to sit down and do your taxes would not be fine because that's not giving your brain a break. This is not clicking through, sorry. And then when we talk about procrastination, we'll talk about this more in detail later, but definitely if you are a procrastinator, this is something that you need to focus on because we really want to fix those bad habits and help you be less of a procrastinator. And this is what I also want to say. Oftentimes I'll have students say, that's just how I work. That's how I work best. I'm at my best if I wait till the last minute. I would say sometimes short term, that may work, especially if it's something kind of lower key, not high stakes. If it's just an assignment, if it's a short quiz or something, yeah, maybe if you stay up the night before and cram it all in, your brain can retain it to do okay on the quiz the next day. But sometimes students are fooled by those little successes, like, oh, I just crammed it in 2 hours before I walked in here and I was able to get a B. And sometimes that does work, but in the long haul, that's not going to work. And for bigger, higher stakes assignments or projects or things that you need to do for your career, it's not going to work. The other part of that is that students don't realize is that you doing that actually affects your brain in a negative way because you are kind of using adrenaline that you shouldn't be. You're activating some hormones and different things in your brain that then can cause some negative consequences for you in terms of stress. So even at the time, if you feel like it's okay that you're staying up till 2 a.m. and you have your Mountain Dew and you don't care, that's not good for you. It's causing some damage. So we don't want you to do that. We want to break those habits. Okay. And so we're going to talk about different ways you can do that. I have this acronym for the days of the week that we kind of will use and walk through and really talk about procrastination and how to fix it. So I'm not going to go through all those right now, but we will go back to it. And then the last point that I want to make is it is really important to not be a workaholic. Now, I know that's easier said than done when you have so much to do. And sometimes I think, I tell this to my students, but do I really follow the same advice? Because I think about when I was in grad school and working full time and teaching and raising my kids and everything else I had going on, in the middle of a pandemic, trying to get all, the stress of the pandemic, that was very hard. And so, yes, I definitely felt like a workaholic. I probably did not take as many breaks as I needed to, but I'm telling you that it is really important that you try to schedule those in. And the reason is because our brain can only take so much. It can only take so much. It needs downtime. It has to have some downtime. And if you don't give yourself the downtime, if you don't schedule in the downtime, at some point, you're going to have a breaking point. You're going to have a breaking point. Your brain is going to have enough and it's going to tell you it's had enough. And you're going to probably either feel stressed, you may cry, you may just want to sleep, you may feel anger, you may, whatever the case may be. And a lot of times when that happens, we do nothing. We take a nap. We crash on the couch. We sit on Facebook for 2 hours and mindlessly scroll through funny videos before we realize that 2 hours has gone by. We waste the time anyway because our brain has just had enough and we just physically cannot move on to the next activity. So it's really important that you're scheduling that time because if you schedule downtime to watch some TV or to hang out with friends or to go take a walk or whatever it is that you normally would like to do, then you haven't interfered with your other goals. You gave yourself the time you needed. If you don't do that and you're scheduling in that you're supposed to be studying for your bio quiz, and your brain's like, nope, we're not studying for the bio quiz because you've worked me really hard this week and I'm done. And you crash and you're upset and you're crying, or you need to sleep. You now did not study for the bio quiz. So it's really important that you schedule in that time with family and friends, even if you are super busy, which I know you all are, but you have to schedule in some downtime with your friends and family or whatever it is that's important to you so that you can recharge your brain and not overload yourself. Okay. So that's just some tips on time management. I would really encourage you to set a schedule this week. If you have not already done so, look at your week, look at how many hours you should be studying according to that formula that we went over, and then get everything down, write down everything. I will put an example, weekly planner in your Canvas module. If you want to print that planner out, I would strongly encourage you to print out 1 week and just put everything in. Everything. When are you at work? When are you at school? When are you sleeping? When are you eating? When do you have all these other responsibilities? Get it all out on paper, and then look at, okay, when do I have openings? When do I have those open spots that I could realistically put some studying in that I'm going to need? And sometimes it's an eye opener. Sometimes you'll get that week filled out and you're like, literally, there is no blocks left. There are no blocks left. And if that's the case, tough choices need to be made right now, because I can guarantee you, if you continue on as a college student and you have no open blocks on your week to be able to devote to school, it's not going to go well. You're not going to meet your goals that you want, and that's just going to cause a lot of stress for you, and then obviously can have negative consequences towards your GPA and your transcript and meeting the goals you need for your degree. So we don't want you to be in that position. So I would encourage you to do that planner. I will get that posted to Canvas so that you can look through it, and then let me know if you're struggling with that or if you need help kind of coming up with a game plan. But that's really, really important right now at this point in the semester. Okay, so I hope something I've said during this video has helped you get started with your time management if you haven't already. And as always, please reach out to me if you have any questions. I would love to work with you one-on-one to help with good time management. Okay, thanks.